Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to look at algebraic long division again. This time we're going to look at a slightly more complicated way of writing out the question, and we'll go through that and we'll do two examples of that. Okay, so first thing is we're told here that 3x minus 1 is to be multiplied by g of x, and that's going to give us quadratic here. Okay, it's important that we understand what that means. That means that 3x minus 1 divides into this, and they're asking us to find the other factor. So just think about it logically. It's like saying that 5 times a number will give you 20. And they're looking to know what the number is. So 3x minus 1 represents 5. G of x represents x is equal to, and this represents the 20. So if we want to find out what g of x was equal to, or in this case what x is equal to, what we need to do is we need to isolate that. And how we isolate that, to keep the x by itself, we need to divide the right hand side by 5. So let's just see here. You can see here that the hidden operation between these two terms is times. So at the minute this is 5 times x. So if I want x by itself, I need to divide this side by 5. But because this is an equation, whatever I do to the left hand side, I have to do to the right hand side. So I have to divide the right hand side by 5, and that will give me 20 over 5. Okay. Similarly here, if I want to find g of x, so I'll just write this here underneath just so you can see. So if I have 3x minus 1 being multiplied by g of x equal to 3x squared minus 22x plus 7. To find out what g of x is equal to, I need to divide the right hand side by 3x minus 1. Okay, so it should follow the exact same logic. So to find out what g of x is equal to, I'm dividing the left hand side by 3x minus 1 to get g of x by itself. But if I divide the left hand side by 3x minus 1, I have to divide the right hand side by 3x minus 1 to keep it equivalent, okay, to keep it balanced. Okay, so I'm going to start off that question there underneath. And we know from what we did in the last class that if I have a quadratic in a fraction and I'm dividing it by 3x minus 1, all I'm really doing is I'm dividing 3x minus 1 into the quadratic. So I'm going to lay that out like it should be laid out. So 3x squared minus 22x plus 7. Okay. And just keep that nice and neat. Okay, so 3x minus 1. Okay, so we're back looking at long division. Okay, so we have our long division again. So from that, we need to go through the cycle for long division. Just for anyone that hasn't been or hasn't seen this before, these are the 3 steps involved: divide, multiply, and subtract. And if we do those 3 steps, that's one full cycle. Because we have a quadratic, we're going to have to do two cycles. And if you're just trying to learn that off, an easy way to learn it off is doesn't make sense. Okay, so it doesn't make sense. DMS doesn't make sense. Okay, so we'll start off by doing the divide. So I need to see how many times 3x will divide into 3x squared. And the answer there is going to be x times. And just to verify that, 3x times x gives you 3x squared. Okay, our second step there is to do multiplication. So we're going to multiply. So what I'm looking at now is 3x multiplied by x, which gives me 3x squared. So I write that in there underneath. I've multiplied the first term by x, that's fine, but I now need to multiply the second term by x. So if I multiply the second term by x, minus 1 times x is minus 1x. So I've now completed the first 2 steps in the cycle, so I now need to do the third. And the third step is to subtract. So this here, I'm going to draw a line and change the signs. So this positive 3x will turn into a negative, and this negative 3x will turn into a positive. The reason why those signs change, just to be sure, is because I'm subtracting. So I'm subtracting 3x squared, and here I'm subtracting a negative 1, and if I subtract the negative, it turns into a positive. So you can see here that these are going to cancel, and then you can see that the negative 22x plus 1x is the same if you think about it as if it's euros in the bank. If you owe the bank 22 euro and you lodge a euro, you now only owe them 21. So you've got negative 21x. Okay, so you can see so far I've divided this into these 2 terms here, and I haven't done anything with this term yet. So I need to make sure that I'm keeping that term involved, so I'm going to bring that down, and I'm going to put my plus 7 there. Okay, now it's important that you make sure that you bring that term down, and then we're going to start the whole thing over again. We're going to start a brand new cycle up here again because we just finished our subtract. We're going to start a brand new cycle again, and we're going to see how many times 3x minus 1 divides into this here. Okay, so we'll start off with the first step, which is divide, and we're going to see how many times 3x divides into minus 21x. Okay, so how many times 3x divides into minus 21? So we know you could type it into a calculator if you wanted to, minus 21 divided by 3, or else you should have an idea there of minus 7. Okay, so that's our division done. So now we're going to look at our multiplication. Okay, so 3x multiplied by minus 7 gives us minus 21x. And now we're going to look at the second term, which is minus 1 times minus 7. So a minus by a minus will give us a plus. And 1 times 7 gives us 7. Our last step there is to subtract. So we're just going to draw a line and change our signs. So this is going to change from a negative to a positive. And this one's going to change from a positive to a negative. And you can see here that these will cancel and these will cancel. So if they're both going to cancel, then we'll be left with nothing. Okay, so what we've worked out there, just to be clear, it says we've worked out what g of x is equal to. Okay, so g of x is equal to x minus 7. So just to be clear on what that means that 3x minus 1 multiplied by x minus 7 multiplied by x minus 7 will equal 3x squared minus 21x plus 7. Okay, so this multiplied by this will give us this. And another way of viewing that is that this and this are both factors of 3x squared minus 22x plus 7. Okay. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll move on there and we'll try the next question. The next question is very, very similar. It's the same kind of a layout. So it's kind of the same as what you've been doing. So we'll just go through that now. Okay, first of all, we just get rid of all this so that we're ready to go. Okay, so again, this question here is very similar to what you were doing. They're saying that 2x plus 7 multiplied by f of x, we'll just put in a multiply by f of x is equal to 6x squared plus 11x minus 35. So you can see there what's happening is I'm multiplying this here by f of x, but I want to get f of x by itself. So I want to get f of x by itself. So to get f of x by itself, I need to do the opposite to multiply, and the opposite to multiply is divide. So I'm going to divide the left-hand side here by 2x plus 7. But if I divide the left-hand side by 2x plus 7, I have to divide the right-hand side by 2x plus 7 because it's an equation and you need to keep equations balanced. Okay, so 6x squared plus 11x minus 35 all over 2x plus 7. And once you have it in this format, then we know that it's just the exact same as what we were doing before. It's just long division, and we can lay that out. Okay, so we'll lay that out now. So 6x squared plus 11x minus 35 is all being divided by 2x plus 7. Okay, so we're back doing long multiplication, and we know that when we're doing long multiplication, we're just following these 3 simple steps, right? So each of these steps individually you should find quite straightforward. It's just to make sure that we do them one after the other. So we'll start off with the first one there, which is divide. So we'll just put a tick there beside divide so you can see what's happening. So I want to see how many times 2x divides into 6x squared. And I know that 2x divides into 6x squared 3x times. And the reason behind that is because 2 times 3 gives me 6, and x times x gives me x squared. So that's the first step done. I'm now going to move on to multiply. And I'm going to look there again. I'm going to multiply this here by 3x and bring that in and see how much that reduces it by. So 2x by 3x gives me 6x squared. So I can put in my 6x squared. And plus 7 times 3x gives me 21x. So a positive 21x. Okay, so I've completed the second step there, which was multiply. I'm now going to complete the third step. And the third step is to subtract. So I'm going to subtract this 6x and I'm going to subtract this 21. So I'm just going to change the sign. So typically what I say there makes it easy for you to learn is draw your line and change your signs. So if they were positive, they turn negative. If they were negative, they turn positive. So you can see here that these will cancel. So now we're looking at these two. And if we had 11x and we subtracted 21, it's the same as if you had €11 in the bank and you borrowed 21, you'd owe the bank €10. So we can say there that's going to be a negative 10x. Okay, and a minus 35 here. So that's our first cycle complete. We subtracted them, so that's that done. So now we're going to move on to our second cycle. So we're going to have to see how many times this divides into this. Just to be sure there, I just brought that term down because that term hasn't been divided into yet. Okay, so second cycle. So we're going to start by dividing again, and we're going to see how many times 2x divides into negative 10x. Okay, so division, and 2x divides into negative 10x minus 5 times. So I'm going to put in my minus 5 here. Okay, I now need to multiply. So I'm going to start with this here and say 2x times negative 5 gives me negative 10x. Okay, and plus 7 times negative 5 gives me negative 35. So I'll just keep the colors the same, negative 35. And I'm down there to my last step, which is to subtract. So I need to subtract. So I'm going to draw my line and change my signs. So that's going to turn into a positive and a positive. And obviously they will cancel, and they'll cancel, and I'll be left with nothing. And I can see here, the question asked me initially, find f of x. So what I've done there is I've found f of x, because f of x was equal to 6x squared plus 11x minus 35 divided by 2x plus 7 divided by 2x plus 7. So that's my answer there. So my answer there is going to be 3x minus 5. Okay.